So I've already exceeded my time budget. So we're now going to, I hope this works for you. I've asked Sam Longman, who's head of environment and sustainability at Transport for London. So he is the kind of conscience of the transport organisation in London, to kind of challenge us as museum people to find a response to climate change. So he's our remote keynote speaker. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Longman and I'm Transport for London's Head of Sustainability and Environment. Thank you for the honour of allowing me to speak to you virtually today at your 45th IATM conference. I'd like to set you a challenge that you consider not just during your conference discussions, but beyond when you return to your organisations. And my challenge is this: how can museums help us learn not just from the past, but also from the present? What do I mean by this? Well, in my view, museums are an important element of a sustainable society. They bring communities together to learn from and celebrate their culture and history. But they're more than that. Museums have earned authority and respect, and actually they create spaces to have difficult conversations and to learn from our past. But could they do more? We take a step back. We live in interesting times, undoubtedly, in terms of our knowledge and our technology. And it's the most advanced ever. We know more than ever, but that is always the case at any point in history. What's different about now is the fact that we're living through what's called the Great Acceleration, where we're seeing this explosion in economic activity, material use, built environment, in population. But of course, that's come with an explosion in the extraction of natural resources, destruction of nature, degradation of Earth's natural systems, and actually systems that provide our life support system, and we are embedded and entirely reliant on. You all know this, most people know this, it's an obvious statement, but it does feel like there's a change happening. It feels like this is a decade where it's becoming real. The ecological collapse, the climate breakdown, the kind of runaway extreme inequality has become deeply worrying and unavoidable reality for all. So what role can museums play? Well, for me, the future is uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen, but I feel that what we do know is it's going to be very different to it is now, and actually that'll probably come about a lot quicker than we expect. I also believe what is certain is sustainability will always and actually become increasingly important. So I ask you to consider, are there things we accept now that future generations would struggle to comprehend we accepted, or worse, condemn us for? Of course, our past is our past, and we can be both proud and ashamed of aspects of our past. But it is what got us where we are today, and there's much to celebrate, and it can't be changed. So we must look forward. What I believe we shouldn't do is assume we've somehow hit upon the pinnacle of development of civilization in terms of our social and economic systems. I think it's the height of arrogance. They have always changed throughout history, and they will continue to change. And given that our economic and social systems are actually fundamental to addressing the challenges of our time in terms of climate change, in terms of inequality, in terms of improving the life chances and the health and the well-being of everyone, why is there such narrow and often non-existent discussion about how they need to change? After all, they have changed in the past, so they can change again. And in fact, they are changing before our eyes. It's like this kind of an unspoken rule that it's certainly kind of government institutions, but many institutional organisations shouldn't openly discuss or question in any depth whether we've got our democratic, societal, economic systems right, or whether they need to change much more radically. It's like, it's like we'd be questioning the fundamental laws of physics, but these aren't fundamental laws, these systems. We created them, and we can create different ones, better ones. And it's not that the system is kind of broken. The system, it actually works. It works for some people very well. It's just not working for all of us. And in the context of ecological collapse, climate breakdown, runaway inequality, they're not working at all. But on the other hand, there's a lot of discussion about technology all over the place. Technology is the solution to all our problems and all of our limitations. And even though we're on a finite planet, if we just have more technology, we can overcome those fundamental planetary boundaries. It's pretty obvious why there is so much discussion about technology. It's because there is profit to be made. And I'm not saying technology is inherently bad, but we mustn't kid ourselves. The reason why there is so little real discussion and deliberation and investment in new systems in terms of economic and societal systems is because there is capital investment and profit to be made from new technology, because it's essentially selling us more stuff to consume. And that is the story of our time, as described by John Alexander. We're living in the consumer story. And that story tells us our only real agency for bringing about change is in what we choose to buy. We weren't always in the consumer story. We used to live in the subject story, and that was a story of dependency, of religion, of divine right of kings. It was a story of things being done to us and as subjects us receiving. It was a story of duty, obedience, command, hierarchy. But then came along our consumer story, our current story, and it did begin positively. It lifted us out of that subject story. We became independent. We had rights. We could demand. We could choose. It was objective, and hierarchy was replaced with bureaucracy. But there is a new story ahead of us, a much more positive story that we just need to step into, and that's the citizen story. It's a story not of dependence or independence, but interdependence, where things are done with instead of for us, which is spiritual instead of material. It's a story of purpose, not just rights. We participate, not demand. We create, not just choose, where our systems facilitate, they don't just serve. It's one where bureaucracy has been replaced with networks. The citizen story is deliberative rather than just objective. The starting point is, what makes life worth living? Is it amassing as much material possessions and money as you possibly can before you die? Well, clearly not. What makes life worth living is human connection, family, friends, art, culture, nature, health, well-being, and love. So we need to think about the systems that we need to create in order to maximize those outcomes. I don't want museums of the not too distant future to be looking back at our civilization in the past context in the same way that we look back at Babylonian, Egyptian, Roman civilizations of history. It goes back to what I said earlier. The assumption that we've solved everything is just not true. Our future is uncertain, but it's a future we choose. And the argument you'll hear for staying in the consumer story, and in fact doubling down on it, is that the limitations of our current economic systems, which are predicated on continual growth, and the solution to that is to just do much more of it. It assumes that through technological advance, we can decouple from extraction of natural resources and the exploitation of people and nature. But in my view, and based on what we've seen today, that just simply isn't true. There's no evidence to suggest there's been any decoupling. And in fact, it's getting worse. And it's blind faith just to assume that our current system will work out, somehow turn around and actually stop destroying nature, stop exploiting the planet and people. Having said all that, we must remain optimistic, and we must paint a positive vision. And that is a vision of what you get back from a sustainable society, not what's taken away. It's not about what you won't have and what you can't do anymore. It's actually about the richness you get back, and the health and the well-being and the connection and the art and the culture and the community and the love. And it is a transition that we need to go through, and we've started, but we should be excited by it. Think of all the new ideas we'll develop, all the new systems that we'll create, and all the people and friends that we'll make along the way. And there are two things required for a step change. First is that everyone realizes the current systems aren't really working. The second step is that everyone realizes that everyone else has realized the systems aren't working too. And that's what we've seen in the past with things like women and gay rights. Once the conversation gets to a certain point and is out in the open, you get this rapid shift. Therefore, the most important thing we can do is to have brave and open conversations without fear. And for me, museums can be at the heart of learning, not just from our past, but also from our present. And they can create that shared, open and brave conversation that we need to enable us to step through those changes into our new citizen story, and one where we live sustainably, where we regenerate, rebuild nature, and we actually deliver for everyone what matters in life. And my challenge to you is about creating those spaces to have those difficult conversations. And the more you do, the easier those conversations will become. So I put the challenge to you: be brave, lean into those difficult conversations, and recognize the amazing opportunity and important role that museums can play in building a sustainable future for everyone. Thank you.